In this lesson, I would like to give a short introduction to foreign trade. And to be able to explain this to you, we need to look at the demand reasons. Why does international trade take place in the first place? So we have to look at the size, the income, the wealth, preference, and the taste and consumption patterns of the citizens of a country. Because aggregate demand depends, first of all, on the size of your population, and secondly, on the income that they generate, because you can only buy the things you want and need with your income. Another thing to remember is that not all countries have the factors of production required to produce certain goods or services themselves. Maybe their climate is not suitable for producing these goods or services, or you don't have access to the required technology. A country may also not be able to produce the required goods or services as efficiently as another country. This just basically means for country A, it is too expensive to produce it themselves. So they would rather import from country B, who is able and willing to produce at a reasonable price. Then we look at the supply reasons for international trade, and they are very closely interlinked with your demand reasons. First of all, countries may have an abundance of the factors of production required to not only satisfy the wants or needs of local markets, but for foreign markets as well. Maybe the climate is suitable, so we can produce large quantities of this good. We have access to skilled labor or technological resources, which will enable us to produce efficiently. If we have access to technology or to a lot of capital, a higher output is actually possible. And this will also enable the specialization of labor. So we can produce goods in higher quantities and at a lower cost. And this enables us to meet both the local and foreign demand. If we look at the effects of international trade, it is first of all the specialization. This means every country ends up with more of a traded good, but at the same cost. And if you have more shoes and it costs you less, then obviously your standard of living increases. So without trade, many countries would have to go without certain products. If I can just randomly refer to Finland, if they would not have access to bananas, but Mozambique, on the other hand, would not have access to any oil. So international trade increases the size of the market, and this makes mass production possible. With competition from abroad, it also ensures that businesses or companies become more efficient because they want to they want to use their limited resources to their best possible outcome. And they want to limit wastage as well, because then it's a lower cost to them and they can be profitable. Then we also have international trade, which drives globalization, where your multinational enterprises locate in countries where they are close to the natural resources they need or have access to the type of laborers or technology where they can efficiently produce a good or a service. Another important thing in foreign exchange is to look at absolute and relative or comparative advantage. A country has an absolute advantage if it can produce goods or services at the lowest cost compared to another country. You can make economic gains if you have an absolute advantage because you do or you specialize in that thing that you do the best. A relative advantage means producing goods or services at a lower opportunity cost than another country. And I would like to use examples to explain this further. If we compare South Africa and Japan when it comes to the manufacturing of medical equipment, it is clear that Japan has an absolute advantage. With the same number of resources, Japan can build 72 machines, South Africa can build 11. But now, if we look at citrus, South Africa can produce 55 tons of citrus compared to Japan's 18. South Africa has an absolute advantage in producing citrus. So where should they specialize? You can't merely just look at this and this and then decide, yes, South Africa must produce citrus and Japan must produce medical equipment. We have to look at the opportunity cost as well. Now, just a quick reminder, opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative that was given up in order for you to satisfy a specific need. So in this case, we are going to calculate the ratio of one item to another. South Africa, what is the opportunity cost for building equipment? For every one machine that South Africa is going to manufacture, we will have to give up 5 tons of citrus. So the opportunity cost for building medical equipment in South Africa is 5 tons of citrus. In Japan, if they want to produce one machine, they give up 1/4 of a ton of citrus. So which country is better off manufacturing the machine? Obviously, it is Japan, because they sacrifice very little in order to make a machine. In South Africa, we have to give up 5 tons of citrus for one machine. They give up 1/4 of a ton. Let's look at it the other way around. If we were to produce citrus, we have to give up 1/5 of medical equipment. And Japan, on the other end, has to give up 4 of their pieces of equipment in order to produce 1 ton of citrus. Here it is clear, South Africa gives up a lot less when they decide to produce citrus compared to Japan. And now, if South Africa specializes in the production of citrus, what will happen? Now, I've explained this part already. South Africa has to give up 5 tons of citrus in order to produce 1 piece of equipment. There is our graphical representation. So if South Africa chose to ship off these citrus fruit, 5 tons of citrus, to Japan, Japan will be willing to give us 4 pieces of equipment for 1 ton, because that was their opportunity. Because if I can just go back quickly, for them, in order to produce 1 ton of citrus, they give up 4 machines. For every 1 ton, they give us 4 machines. We end up sacrificing our 5 tons of citrus, but instead of getting 1 machine, we end up with 20. So it is obvious that it makes more sense for South Africa to produce the citrus and then trade it for more equipment than we would ever be able to produce ourselves. So there we go. We send off our citrus to Japan. And here comes all the machines we gain for doing this and specializing in the production of citrus fruit. Now let's look at it from Japan's point of view. Japan, if they choose to produce 1 ton of citrus, they have to give up 4 pieces of equipment. So if they chose to ship off these 4 pieces of equipment, they will exchange it for 20 tons of citrus. Obviously, it makes sense for Japan to then produce the medical equipment and trade it for South Africa's citrus, because now 4 pieces of equipment gone, but instead of having 5 tons of citrus, they have 20, which puts them in a better position than they were before, or could be producing this all by themselves. So if both countries specialize, South Africa, who has the advantage in the production of citrus, Japan, the advantage in production of medical equipment, South Africa will be a lot better off exchanging the citrus for medical equipment, and Japan will be a lot better off exchanging the medical equipment for citrus. The most important principle that we learn from the theory of comparative advantage is that once a country specializes or concentrates on the product that they are actually good at, they will be able to produce a lot more of their product and economies of scale occur. And then you can sell these products abroad and import what you can't produce yourself. And then you put yourself, your country, and the countries you trade with in a better position. I hope you understand this introduction, and then we will look at the balance of payments in our next lesson.